Hi, welcome to Thinking Too Much, a series that I do where I just talk about stuff that I want to talk about because I've been thinking about them for a while. Today, I'm going to be talking about mouthwashing just because that is something that I have been thinking about for a while now, for like a couple of days. So before I get into it, I am just going to say that this video is not going to be like in a logical order because I am going to talk about stuff that I like basically in different aspects of it and like why I keep thinking about it a lot. So yeah, it's just gonna be like really random. So for those of you that don't know, Mouthwashing is a psychological horror game that centers around 5 crew members traveling on a freight ship through space to make a delivery for a company called Pony Express, which Pony Express is not really that good of a company. But while they are making this delivery, they end up crashing. The ship ends up crashing and they get stranded basically. And throughout the game, we're following the crew members after the crash. All throughout that, we also get glimpses into the events that led up to the crash, along with nightmare dream sequences, that type of thing, that involve one of our characters. So that is what Mouthwashing is. It's a game that was released in 2024, I think. And on the ship, it is 5 characters, like I said, which will be Anya, Swansky, Daisuke, Pearly, and Jimmy. And this game does follow heavy topics too, so just wanted to be aware of that too. The initial release of the game was from September 26, 2024. So that was last year. But I recently just learned about the game. I just recently started getting TikToks, like I would say about a week before filming this video. Maybe under a week, but it was like really recently. That's why I'm not really sure why I started getting videos about it, but I did. So that is the reason why I even became aware of this game, because before I didn't even know it existed. And at first I really wasn't interested in it. I just didn't really think it was going to be a game that I would be interested in. I kept getting spoilers for that, so I just decided to watch a gameplay about it so that I could understand why the spoilers, what the spoilers were basically, and like to understand how the characters got to that point. Really, the main TikTok that got me the most interested in learning about mouthwashing was the animation somebody did. I'm gonna put their username right here because I don't really know just like an exact way to say it. And if you're wondering, it's their video of Anya doing the smile dance that a lot of artists have been doing, because I really like how they did the animation, especially with Anya. So yeah, that was the main video that got me interested. I am a little sad though that I didn't even know about this game until now, because I also learned like a couple days ago too that there was a plushie of Anya that really looked cute and I really wanted it. So I went to go check, but the pre-order window for it was closed. So I was kind of sad that I didn't learn about this game in like February, because that's when the pre-order was. And it's something that I have been thinking about for a while, because I just finished watching a gameplay of it like 2 days ago. So it's very fresh in my mind. I really just needed to like do this video, kind of like organize my thoughts about that, and like mainly just to pinpoint the areas that I did like. Okay, so the biggest thing that I've been thinking about with this game is the feeling I got after watching the gameplay. The feeling that I got at the ending was a very despair-filled feeling, not so much a lonely feeling, but like a dread basically. Because with games, movies, shows, any media really where you follow a stranded group of people, there's always some sort of happy ending 90% of the time with like stranded concepts. At least for me, I was expecting some sort of happy ending, or at the very least a very thin silver lining. That's just something I grew to expect just based off other media that follow the stranded concept. There's always like at least a silver lining in it. No, I already kind of knew how it ended, like, but I didn't know how it ended at the very end basically. So before I played the game, I was expecting some sort of silver lining with like maybe, I don't know, like Curly. Oh yeah, did I mention there's going to be spoilers? There's going to be spoilers. But at some point in the game, I think it was when Swansky killed Daisuke, that's when I realized that we weren't going to get a happy ending, and that's when the dread started setting in. And that's also when I realized that Jimmy was the reason that we weren't even going to get like a silver lining with the characters. I think that by that point we learned that Jimmy was the one who crashed the ship, I believe. So hope for like a good ending was just gone because he ended up having to take up captain roles and he was not good at that at all. So around that area when Daisuke was listening to Jimmy following his orders just because he believed he was doing right, or Daisuke believed that Jimmy, I wouldn't say was right, but at least had some hope that he was right. Around that area, that's when that dread started setting in, because then that's when I realized that all of them definitely weren't gonna live, basically. And that part was also kind of like the most saddest, because the fact that Daisuke was the first one to die, I don't know. Well, I guess it wouldn't be I don't remember. It was either Anya or Daisuke that was the first to die, because I don't remember what we saw first. I probably have to look back at it. I don't remember if they show Anya passing before Daisuke or if we saw Daisuke before Anya. I don't remember that timeline. But the fact that either one of them was the first one to go, it was just really, I don't know how to say it, was just a lot. Just because both of them, the reason that they ended up passing is because it was stuff that was out of their control in a way. With Daisuke, he probably had that hope that maybe he was going to live and that he didn't really think Swarovski was going to kill him. And then with Anya, it was, she did do it herself, but it wasn't really made out of her full choice, basically, because she was kind of pushed to do that. It wasn't something that she probably wouldn't have done if circumstances were different. You know what I mean? I guess external forces is what really, external forces being Jimmy, what really pushed them to even go that route. And having them both pass first was just, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. Like, it's just a really sad one. And then with them, those two going, and then with Swarovski going, it's just piling on. But the thing is that what I liked about, well, I didn't like it. It's like, something that was really, that also made it a little bit harder was because Swarovski, we showed Jimmy's point of view at first, where he sees Swarovski as basically attacking him without any like good reason. The way it's kind of framed in a way as Jimmy's point of view is that Swarovski just went nuts, which we know is not true, because when we go later in the game, we know that is definitely not true. Like, there is a reason why Swarovski did that. I also like that too, how we got a glimpse into how Jimmy saw Swarovski and like gave us even more of that picture frame of how he saw him with, well, basically I'm talking about that scene where Swarovski is trying to get Jimmy out of the cockpit and Jimmy has the door locked. Basically he slams to the axe, and because we get that scene first, our brains just automatically kind of click into Jimmy's mindset when he does kill Swarovski with the gun, because we were already like kind of primed to think that way, because we got that like dream sequence. I don't know if I would call it a dream sequence, because it could also just be like a actual thing that happened, and like Jimmy just is trying to like collectively label it as a dream. Okay, yeah, but because of that, we're more easily clicked into Jimmy's mind but that's what I'm trying to say, is that also made it a little bit harder to take in, because we just got 2 deaths. And then we got Swarovski like right after the fact that it happened, and like within like, I'll probably say like an hour or so. All that happened within like an hour, maybe 2 hours. It's just a lot. Like, there is no like buffer between them. There is no like grieving over Anya. And we didn't get a chance to like grieve over Anya. We didn't get a chance to like grieve over Daisuke. And we just basically went through each of the deaths very, very quickly. And then on top of that, having to witness how Jimmy viewed Swarovski, it was just like a lot, basically. But it kind of also made Dean's move move things fast paced, and like show how quickly someone can just like do stuff and not basically think about it, which again, it's not really, it's Jimmy. Like, he had a lot of time to think about it, but it just shows how quickly stuff like that can happen so fast before you even realize what happened. And it also just showed where Jimmy was mindset wise, and then the pressure of being a captain and like having to take care and help take care of, what was it, 4 other people? Yeah, it'll be 4 other people, and having to deal with that type of pressure. So on top of the stress, so having that stress that he probably didn't expect, on top of the unhealthy mindset that he already had, it just wasn't a good combination, and it just caused things to go really, really, really bad so quickly. And by the end, it's still like I don't want to say apologize. He didn't really apologize. He thinks that he apologized in a way, but it wasn't really an apology. It was more like an apology to himself, is what I'll basically say. And it wasn't an apology to the others. It was an apology to himself as a way to make himself feel better. So yeah, all that chunk of the second half is just a lot to think about. That's kind of why I've been having mouthwashing on my mind a lot, because it's like a lot of stuff that are layered on top of each other that are just interconnected way too much, all because Jimmy. I keep saying that, but yeah, because it is basically Jimmy and Curly, because if those two well, I guess if those two hadn't been on the ship, it probably would have been so much better. So yeah, that part, I know that part's like really, really rambling. It probably doesn't even make sense, but that's kind of like how I've been thinking or struggling to like put stuff together in my mind, because just a lot of stuff to like focus on. But yeah, overall, that part was it was really somber. It was dreadful. I really wish that I really wish it was one of those times where it was like, oh, this is just a dream, or like one of them gets like a second chance or something like that, just because I feel like that would have been like a nice something to like settle the mind a little bit. That is why I also really like the actor AU Dean, because it helps the mind digest that second half a lot. But also, the reason I brought that up is because somebody made a fan fiction where Curly gets a second chance to like do Dean's right. I am in the middle of reading that. I just started chapter 3, that's why. And it kind of feeds into that want for like a silver lining, which I have it right here. I don't remember what it was called. Okay, yeah, it's Last Chance. That's what it's called. But yeah, that fan fiction, Last Chance by Fabo Crack, I'm gonna put their username right there. That one I started reading, and that kind of helps fill that need for silver lining too, and it kind of helps like give a break basically to give my mind something to digest. So yeah, I know that's like a lot, because that's kind of how I've been thinking about this game recently, and there's like different stuff to look at and like different dynamics that are coming into play. And it's also been like 2 days since I watched the gameplay, so a lot of my thoughts are kind of jumbled. I haven't really like fully put things together. Okay, I do want to get the game later though, play it for myself. I do want to go in and through on the gameplay again and view more details in their dialogue. So I do want to do that. I'm probably not going to do that right now though. I'm probably going to do that like later when I have more time. But besides that, one of the things that I also really liked, I did touch on it, was how the game also played with expectations, because most of my expectations that I had, the game ended up doing the opposite. Like I mentioned, was with the silver lining. That one was a complete opposite of what I was expecting, because we didn't get none. The second biggest one was with Swasky. Because when he was guarding the utility store, my automatic way of thinking was that he was hoarding something, or that he was trying to keep something to himself, which he kind of was, but I was thinking in a more selfish light, not in a like he's doing it for a purpose. And that, I don't know, I was just getting like, before I was just getting like this kind of characterization of that he really didn't care about others, and like I didn't really see any layers to him. A lot of the TikToks that I saw were him being grumpy basically, and like him being very distant from the others. So that was kind of like what ended up framing my point of view of him at first. So when he was like protecting the utility door, my automatic thing was that he was doing it because he was hiding something which I like I said he was, but he was hiding something out of helping himself basically. But then when we learned that the room wasn't foamed up and that he was doing it to protect the pods in there, that was another thing that made me like really sad. Because then you kind of see that other layer before we actually get his full backstory. Other layer of him just trying to think about others and not himself, because we know he wasn't gonna use that pot for himself. A lot of people say he was gonna use it on Daisuke, which that one is still just like that possibility that he was gonna use it for him. Or like Anya, one of them, it's just, it hurts. Like, it hurts a lot because it's just, there is a chance that Daisuke could have been saved, like maybe because he is the youngest, and it's a lot. But yeah, after learning that really made me love Swarovski's character more now. Especially when, oh my god, why am I crying over this? I'm starting to cry. Especially after that, when we get like his full backstory and like how he viewed life. I think he kind of like accepted that his life is how it was, and like I wouldn't say content, more like it's a familiar ground. So like he was okay with just staying on the ship and was like more than happy to give the pot to Daisuke or to Anya if either one of them wanted it. So yeah, I don't know, just thinking about like the possibilities with that. Because I don't know if we get like a full-on confirmation on who he was planning to protect the pods for. The pod, it'll be one. Like, I don't remember if there was that. I think all of that is just kind of like speculation. Well, we know he was protecting the pods, but he wasn't planning to use it for himself. He was using it for one of those two. So yeah, that was another area that made me very sad. And then, I don't know, it's just that whole end. And then thinking about him talking to Daisuke and trying to like give him some comforting words before he mercy kills him. It just piles on a lot of those emotions. Like, it's just him giving Daisuke words that he probably wanted to hear from someone, especially like his parents. He probably wanted to hear that from his parents, but his parents are not there, so not Daisuke. So Swarovski is the one who gave it to him in place of like a father figure, giving him advice that he wanted to hear before he did pass. Give Daisuke some closure a little bit so that he didn't pass feeling worthless or like unachievable or something like that. So yeah, overall, Anya and Swarovski are my two favorite characters from the game, and it's obvious why. They're just two characters that I really, really love. And I also hate how like Daisuke wasn't really supposed to be there to begin with. It was just random decisions that led him there that could have been changed if like just one single thing had changed. But yeah, it's definitely a very heavy dread that fills myself whenever I think about that part. I haven't really thought about that till now. But it's just, if Jimmy and Curly weren't there on the ship, it probably would have been so much better. Or at the very least, let's say the ship did end up crashing. I feel like they should have just locked Jimmy. But the thing is that I don't even know if that would be possible. Because ideally, if the ship did still crash and everything was the same, ideally I would like Swarovski to take over and lock Jimmy somewhere that he can't interfere with stuff. It probably would have still had like a very dreadful ending, but at the very least there would be a peace in the ship. There wouldn't be like all that mucky chaos. But we got some good nightmarish dreamscape stuff, because I really did like how they kind of blended reality with the dreams of Jimmy, his guilt stuff with that. Because first time when we see that is when the intro of the game was that it's a kind of a hybrid between Jimmy and Curly. When we first leave the cockpit and we go down the long hallway, that's Jimmy, and I like how they kind of blended it in to make it seem like, oh, this is just a normal hallway, but then we slowly lead into a nightmarish hallway. I'm just gonna call them dreams. Okay, when the camera leaves the cockpit, that's Jimmy, but then when we come back, that's Curly, because he was the one in there. But the thing is that we didn't know who was who. It's just from our point of view. And it all seems like a one sequence type thing. Like a 1% point of view and not multiple point of views. I like how blended that is between reality and the dreams. Because personally for me, I'm so used to having games separate the two. Like there's always like a harsh off between the two. Either like with the actual loading screen like or crosses a door frame in a way where it's like pretty obvious that there's a cutoff right there. So I like how the game didn't really do that. It kind of bleeded the two. The next one that we obviously see that is when they're going into the storage room for the mouthwash, where Jimmy is going to get mouthwash. We go in thinking that it's just going to be like a normal walk through the storage room just to get the mouthwash, and then it ends up being like this long pathway with the invisible horse, and that's what I mean, is that I just really like how we blended the two. I'm probably missing a lot more because I had only watched it once. I'm sure if I watch it again I'll probably see more of that, but I really like that blending so much with the vents. But I don't remember why Jimmy went into the vents. But that whole thing where the vents were, I like that one too. My favorite dream sequence has to be with Swarovski in the graveyard, because it could be looked at as him protecting Daisuke's grave and just continuing to protect him. And also, of course, we get like again how Jimmy views Swarovski as him attacking him, when really he was just basically just trying to protect, basically. At that point he really didn't have nothing to protect anymore, but he had like the lingering feelings of being the protector that was needed. But Jimmy didn't see that. He just saw him coming towards him. And it kind of sucks that Swarovski didn't really didn't really get a chance to probably experience another peak of his life. Like he said, his peak was when he was drunk, and that one was also a lot, because it's just kind of like feeling into that concept of him just like accepting that he was where he is. But yeah, the graveyard scene was probably like my favorite. Again, I don't want to say favorite because it's not really a favorite, but the one that really impacted me was the graveyard one. Really hones in that idea of him just trying to protect Anya and Daisuke as best as he could, and having to take up the role of being the attacker and having that label put on him by Jimmy. Overall, this sucked for all of them because, like I said, it's just a whole bunch of stuff on top of each other, and overall it was difficult for all of them. Some more than others, like Anya. It's just one of those things where like decisions needed to be settled on, even if they were hard to do, that could have prevented all of this. Like Curly could have just done something instead of trying to find common ground in a way. Like if he actually done something more than just listening to Anya and then listening to Jimmy and then not doing anything. He just basically listened and did nothing. If he didn't do that, things could have been like way, 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 way different. Which again, is like I said, it's a really layered thing, because then also because it's just there are 5 people on a ship that is traveling for almost a year, and they don't really have like checkpoints. Basically, I don't know if they do, but if there's no like checks being put in place, like if I can explain it, on the ship, but there's no like anything to like fully like check and like deal with actions effectively. So like, you know how like a company has an HR department, there wasn't really that. It was mainly just, from what we can see, is Curly as the head point, but he's also the captain, and like that has its own like stresses with it too. And like having to like be the captain, deal with like the regular stuff, and also dealing with how to be a peacemaker, basically. It was just, there's a lot of disconnect what happened, which again, the company itself is probably the reason why there's not really like a sole person who is in charge of having to like deal with conflicts that arise. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Because there's not like a system set in place to have stuff deal with effectively, it affects the whole ship and everybody in it, because they're free to do whatever they want, good and bad, but there's no real system set in place to keep checks on people. At most, the only one is Anya having to do like emotional checks on people, and health and emotional checks, mental and physical health. But even, Jimmy says that the psych evaluations are not even there for anything. So psych evaluations, they're supposed to be a glimpse into how the person is feeling, and you're supposed to be honest with them completely, especially if you're on a ship for like almost a year. You definitely need that because things can change really quickly in your mind. And Anya is taking it seriously. She wants the others to be able to take them seriously and give her an honest review, but she is not getting that. And that right there, that right there is already a problem, because she's asking for these guys to be serious with her, to take it serious, but they are not. Like, even Curly's not even taking it that seriously. And like, what do you kind of do in that situation? Because you have these psych valves, and if people are not taking it seriously, you don't have someone else to back you up on it. Like, it's just her asking them. And she tries to ask Curly, but he's not doing anything to have the others take it seriously. Well, mostly Jimmy. Have them take it seriously, and there's no like external person to enforce that idea that, hey, evaluation seriously. There's no way around this. You have to. There's no like external person to do that for them. And that is on the company, and like, they definitely could have hired like an HR person, or at least someone who was a neutral body in that situation, who didn't have any connections with any of them, who had like authority to like convey information directly to the company that would have consequences like on them, like maybe like a dock pay or anything like that. But because the company didn't supply someone like that as like a backup to Anya, or to like be a voice for any of them, it just really makes like a disconnect. Then on top of that, you have the captain not taking stuff seriously when he is supposed to take stuff seriously. As a captain, you are supposed to be taking care of your ship and not the company, and the crew, and that means also taking stuff very seriously. But since he also didn't do that, that just made the basic cooperation and foundation of the crew just really crumble. It's a combination of stuff that really could have prevented a lot of stuff if they had like an HR person on board, or at least someone who did not have connections but had authority to do stuff. I mean, that combination just really was not good at all. And then also on top of that, having the captain have so much rules about stuff to follow, like, it's just a weird place to be in. Like, I acknowledge that it is a weird place to be in, because not only are you having to listen to the company, you're also having to listen to your crew, and you're being more than just a captain, and you're having more responsibilities placed on you because they did not have like an HR person. The crew had to place more of their emotions on him, basically. And so I feel like that's may have been something that he kind of just learned to kind of check out on, which I'm not gonna, this is just speculation, so I guess I'm going into theories a little bit. But because he had to learn how to find a balance, he kind of ended up just being very dismissive of a lot of stuff. And plus, Jimmy is there, and Jimmy is his friend, so he's probably more dismissive of stuff because Jimmy is there. Because again, if you're friends with someone for a long time, you're automatically gonna view them in a different light than the others. So because Jimmy was there, he probably got even more dismissive of stuff than he should have. So it was just, and it's just a very frustrating thing, because you can see where there's this obvious disconnects that could have been avoided. I'm just really honing in on that HRD. Like, if they had just someone else there, and if the company had, oh my god, basically we hate the company. It's just a very bad company. Like, if they had so much more resources for stuff, it would have been so much better. That's the other thing that I've been thinking about too, was how the company just influenced all of this too. But really, I'm honing in on that. Like, if they had like another person who had authority besides Curly, who was trained to be an HR, trained to specifically be, they could have had Anya's back on this. I mean, that's the point of the game though. It's just to make us see where those disconnects are and why stuff went wrong so fast. And well, it didn't go by fast. It's just basically to Blair and Lee show us where stuff went wrong. With Curly and Jimmy's friendship, that already was kind of having them as co-captains too, when there was like those underlining jealousy stuff. Again, Jimmy was probably like hiding a lot of his like tendencies and putting on a mask with that. With Curly being very dismissive and probably under a lot of stress, which I can acknowledge, but still dismissing a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been dismissed. And then on the company, having no locks, cutting a lot of corners and stuff like that. I keep saying that so much, but I just keep thinking about all those stuff that could have been could have been avoided so much. And I think that's why I keep thinking about the game a lot. That is kind of like how my mind's been trying to jump between things and trying to like focus. I know that honestly this video is probably going to be like really jumbled a lot. Like way more than it should, because I only scripted the first part of this video and the rest of it I did not. So this, yeah, I know this video is going to be like really jumbled, and it's probably not even going to make sense. But I really just needed to just kind of talk about it, at least for a while, just to kind of get my mind to process some of the stuff that happened in the game. But if you're going to take away something from this video, the main thing you should take away from me is that Swarovski is my favorite character, and so is Anya and Daisuke. Like, those three deserve to at least have a peaceful time after the crash. Like, they did not need to worry about anything. Yeah, and also didn't help that I only watched the gameplay once through, so I probably should have watched it a second time before I did this video, but I didn't. So I'm probably going to do that later. Not watch it, but probably play the game a little bit sometime later. But that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a nice day, morning, or night. Bye. Later.